Welcome to 10-Minute Film School. Today we're going to look at how I layer footage to create magical effects. Stick around for the live Q&A. Let's get right into it. Let me get this correct. There we go. Are we looking? Yeah, okay, we're in After Effects. Today I want to look at when you come up with a magical idea, how do you go about filming all the layers to create that magical effect? If you don't know computer software, if you don't know CGI, all that fancy stuff, how do you with just your phone film stuff and create magical effects? So let's look at the shot that I have for my short film. Basically, I'm using magical wizard powers to flip lids off of jars, and then a spoon and a knife come in. It makes more sense in the short film, but this is the shot we're going to look at. So basically, lid, utensil. How do you construct that with nothing more than filming with your phone? So the first thing, we got to think of the performance I'm doing. So that's the basis of everything. That's what you want to always film first. So let's look at that. So with just me, I'm just pretending. So I have to understand what the shot is, and then I mime it, act it out. So I just flip, wait, because the utensils are going to come in, and then I keep the performance going. So the first thing I note is that the lids are going to flop off of the jar. So when I film myself, the lids can't be there, because in that area where the lids are, I'm going to act behind it. If the lids were there, that would ruin the shot. And so this is 90% done. So now I just need the kind of like fancy little elements to add on to it. So obviously we have to start flipping some lids off of jars. So let's look at what that is. Let's let that load. Oh, that's probably frozen. Yeah, okay, unfreeze that. Okay, that footage is somewhere. Let's look at the next one. Okay. So flipping a jar, again, nothing fancy. I just go in and I flip it. There's no blue screen, there's no green screen, there's nothing. I just get it and I hope it lands in the right spot. And I kind of feel out, I do it about 3 or 4 times. I feel out when it lands, is there a nice wiggle? Is the performance right on the lid? That kind of stuff. And then from there, all I'm doing is then taking my performance and I'm layering that jar flip in by masking out the lid. So I'm going through every frame and tracking that lid into the shot. And the big thing to note here is that this isn't fancy filmmaking. This is just flipping lids and then going in and just cutting them out and adding them into the shot. So we do the lids, and I did that with both, the jam and the peanut butter. And I'm also looking at, while I was shooting this, it didn't occur to me how reflective this countertop was. So when I had to add in these lids, I had to also go in and track in the reflections. And this has to work over top of my reflection. So it's basically just isolating little elements and then layering them into the main shot. And I just do that with 1 lid, 2 lids. And there's a little interactive lighting on the jar that I track in, but it goes by so fast that you can get pretty sloppy with that. And then these flying utensils here make more sense in the short film. But to add those in, really interesting solve. I went in and I filmed me throwing knives and spoons into the jars. And in fact, I used a blue screen for this one. Because I knew it would have to go in front of me. I didn't feel like masking that all in, so I just blue screened, easy to key. And an interesting thing happened where the peanut butter was too thick. I couldn't really throw the knife in. So I just placed it in and I left it, and it fell over on its own. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. And when it does that, it does this nice little like light gleam on it. And I call that a how do you do. When something goes like, hey, look at me, it's a little how do you do. So I was like, oh, that light's really pretty. So in the shot, when that knife lands in, you can see it over here. It does a little light flare. And so the way I added that in was basically when the knife hits the jar, that's the footage of me just letting it go and tipping over. And then I just took one single frame of a full knife. I just held it up, cut it out. Let's go here. Where's my knife? Oh, this is probably it here. Yeah. I just took one frame and I just animated it from like point A to point B, and it just flies into the shot like this. So that's just a single static image being drawn in or animated in with a little bit of motion blur. And then it goes in. I did the exact same thing with the jam. And the, when you look back at it, I'm going to crop in on the shot. It's a bit wide. Boom, 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 boom. And that's really it. That's really how I film all of my magical effects, is basically getting a really solid picture of what the acting is, what I have to do, leaving time for things to go, how do you do? And yeah, then just like layering in and testing how those things are going to go in. Does that make sense? And the biggest thing for me with this kind of stuff is clarity. So, gesturing, leaving a couple frames, flip, gesturing, flip, boom, boom, and then I take over the performance. And even this stuff flying in, like I really boost the whites on these utensils so that you see what's happening. So it's a lot of planning, layering, and clarity. That's basically it. Yeah, nothing more complicated than that. So I think that's the lesson for today. I think that's a good place to wrap up. I'm almost done this short film. I was really hoping to show the whole thing this week, but let's hop to here. But I couldn't finish the short film. I just don't have enough hours in the day, so I'm going to finish it probably in the next few days. And then next week, we'll probably look at the whole film, hopefully finished. I really hope so. It's taking a lot longer than I thought it would. But thanks. That's the 10-minute lesson today. I'll see you next week.